welcome again. Welcome to Katiwok and to the Woody launch and to 2014. I am only just getting used to the fact that it's a new year, but I have made some resolutions. And does anyone else made resolutions that yeah, good. I won't ask you to share them. But I was having to think about my resolutions this week, a bit late, I know. But I decided to frame them, I decided to make three and to frame them into kind of what I see as the three dimensions of my life. So there's some to do with kind of my physical form and my body and fitness and stuff. And then also other dimensions. So in Woody, we've been running the Cardiff 10K for the last 2 years, so that's been good. And I want to just push myself a bit more this year and go for the Cardiff half, if possible. So I might as well say that now, because I may look for sponsorship at a later time. And there's no guarantee that I will do it, but in my day job, as kind of probably everyone knows, I work as a physio, and I see the value of, kind of using the body we've been given. Our body is amazing, and I think that in lots of ways we don't do ourselves a good service if we neglect it. So that's one of my aims, very much around that. I think there is more to life than your body and your physical form, and that's not just because it's fragile. And as Michael Schumacher found when he hurt himself last week, you can't be relying on your physical form or your nervous system. But I think that when you kind of meet people who have their body image has become distorted, or their kind of over focus on the body has become distorted, then you come away with a feeling of thinking, no, that's not all it is. It's not all about the body, So whether they're kind of over, big kind of addicted or obsessed with kind of plastic surgery, or whether it's that they believe that to be physically perfect is their aim in life, for me, it's not just all about the body. And that's because it's fragile, as I just said, but also because in the end, the truth is our body will decay. It'll decay gradually over life, but at the point when our number is up, at whatever point that is for each one of us, you won't have a body. You won't, that'll be the end of it. And the statistics on your body giving up on you are, they haven't been recently released, but I know what they are, and they're the same in this country as abroad, and you have a chance of dying that is 1 in 1. And that's not a great statistic. In fact, it's the worst one I can think of, but it's going to happen. And so to have put all your eggs in the body basket, and for everything in the world to be about vanity and kind of, consuming for your body, that's not necessarily a good thing. But I hear you say, I'm not just a body. I am indeed a mind. And I know that you're a mind because I've spoken to you all, and I know you all, and you are indeed great minds. And the Michael Schumacher has realized that, his mind was great. I mean, surely he must have had the most fantastic reflexes and nervous system, and amazing as it was. And the human brain is still the most amazing, thing on the planet. No matter what gets developed in the morning, nothing will beat the human brain. It's an amazing thing. So I have a resolution with regard to training my brain and giving it fodder for the year. And my resolution is to buy, which I do often, the Sunday papers. But what I don't do often is read the Sunday papers. And they quickly become fodder for the log burner. And so my aim this year is to read them before they get in and I might actually buy Saturday papers to increase my chances. But that is my resolution, because I want to invest in my mind. I see the value of doing that. It's a good thing to do, I reckon. And I see that I may not be a world changer by just reading the Saturday papers on a Sunday, but I'll change my world, and it's a good thing to invest in your mind, which I feel I will do, and would encourage anyone else to. And by people in the world generally investing in their mind and investing in intellectual things, etc., we've grown a lot, and there's been loads of progress. And I'm not denying how amazing we are as a society at progressing things. And I love technology, and I love the internet, and I love a lot of things that all of us love. And I acknowledge that is the result of humans being very clever and making it all work, and all that stuff. So it's not all about the body. I think the mind has a lot to offer. But I also reckon that, as great as our cleverness is and as great as our world progress is in lots of things, in technology and in medicine and in, commerce and manufacture, as great as that is, there always seems to be a flip side when you look at it, or a collateral damage, or a kind of a negative consequence. As I say, I love the internet. I love all the kind of the way it works. But I'm aware, my computer has had its fair share of viruses, and I'm aware that whereas I sit down to do what I think are entirely wholesome things with my computer, banking, etc., I'm aware that other people in the world sit down and just try and hack all day long and try and create misery for other people and it seems ridiculous that some of those are great minds and they're making mischief. And they might think it's funny, or they might think it's clever, or whatever. But they're doing mischief. And that really isn't the worst that happens with the computers and the internet. There's a whole lot worse that happens, and lots of exploitation of people, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So whilst we kind of make a lot of progress, and there's a lot of good stuff, there's also, it seems, in kind of all of those areas, lots of bad stuff as well. So we have things like, when you kind of lift the lid on things and you catch a Panorama or Dispatches documentary or something, you think, okay, so we've created vast wealth, but there are how many billion people living on less than $1 a day? We've got great technology, but the consequence is we've got global warming and more. We've got cheap goods, and we can have pretty much anything we want anytime. You can kind of, in the Western world, we can kind of have, all sorts, can't we? We can have cheap stuff from Primark and blah, 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 blah. But we really aren't being honest with ourselves if we don't acknowledge that that's happening through the exploitation of the planet and the people on the planet. And, you don't have to be looking very deeply into things to know that. And we have nuclear power, which probably is great, and we're going to have it back on our doorstep probably anytime soon. But for that, then, we have nuclear weapons. So, my thoughts are, and I don't think this is me particularly, the only person who comes up with this question, but for all of our cleverness, for the greatness of our mind, we are kind of causing as much progress as destruction in some areas at the same time. You might disagree, you might kind of feel that you have a pet area where it's uncontaminated and, it's mostly good, and you like to, ignore the bad stuff. But I feel that if you kind of keep an open mind, that the cleverness we have isn't really making us better people. If we are intellectual giants and we have a lot of capacity in our brain, why haven't we sorted out things like world hunger? Why is there so much waste and need in the same world, maybe in the same city, maybe in the same neighbourhood? Why are we kind of powerless to solve the problems of evil and suffering and loneliness? And, there are bigger issues there. And, it'd be one thing if it was just this generation, but it's generation after generation after generation, in the presence or absence of technology, in the presence or absence of wealth, the same kind of problems of man's inhumanity to man persist. So, and also, another reason why not to put all your money in your mind is that you won't take that with you either. That comes in for the same statistics of 1 in 1. No one gets to keep their mind after the point where their body has perished. So you may, sign up for some kind of Michael Jackson type cryotherapy and have it put in a jar somewhere, but it won't really be much use to you. So there we go. So the third dimension for me in my resolution, so I'm going to run the Cardiff Half, I'm going to buy more newspapers, and my third, I've got a third resolution, which I'll tell you in a minute, and that's in the third dimension, if you like, of what makes me who I am and makes you guys who you are, because I'm not unique in this sense. My third dimension is kind of my inner person, the kind of the inner Denise, the bit of me that's the makeup of emotion, personality, psyche, spirit, soul, the stuff that's not intellectual me or physical me, but the other bit. And so even in this room, we'll have a different level of kind of conscious awareness or even kind of respect and regard for our inner person. Some people, we know from our friends and stuff, you'll meet some people who are inherently sort of in tune with their inner self, and they're, it's kind of, you meet that before you meet them, and they're so touchy-feely and they're in tune with yourself. And then you meet other people who are not touchy-feely at all, and they would possibly deny the existence of that inner self, and they think, no, it's all about logic and stuff. So, I'm somewhere on the spectrum of that, and everyone else is the same. But I think it's probably difficult for anyone to deny the existence of that inner self, because if you deny that, I don't know how you account for so many other things in life. The kind of, the feeling you get when you see a beautiful thing, whether it's a piece of nature or enjoy some music or have that emotional reaction when you hear some good news from someone, or have, they're not just, it's not just a kind of an emotional thing. There's more to it than that. So the question is, who is the real me and who is the real you? And am I essentially good or bad or somewhere in the middle? Well, if you'd asked me that when I was about 7 years of age, I would have nailed it for you. I would have said good people. No, I would have said bad people. I would have been more familiar with who the bad people were, because my dad was I'll say police officer because we're in the UK, but he was a Garda Síochána, really, which is what we call them in Ireland. So the Gardaí Síochána, he was there, and he used to arrest bad guys. So they were one category of bad people. And on Sunday afternoons, there was generally Disney movies on the telly. So another category of bad people were all stepmothers. And in addition to the stepmothers, because you had to have a male baddie as well, there would be men with angular faces and dark hair and, dark features. So they were all the bad people. And the good people were the pillars of the community. So my dad was one, and the priest, he was another, and we had a couple of politicians nearby, so they were more pillars of the community, and and bankers. The bank manager, he was a main pillar of the community. So these were the pillars of the community, as well as fair. If you look back, even now in Disney, if you look back at the good characters, they've got fair hair and fair skin, and they've got rounded features, and they make your dreams come true. Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but in the media recently, the pillars of the community have become the pillocks of the community, and the people who do all the harm. And the old fair, friendly Jimmy Savile that made people's dreams come true, it would seem gave as many children nightmares as he ever gave good dreams. So the idea that I might have had age 7, that good people were produced in one factory and bad people were produced in another, and you could kind of tell them apart at the beginning, hasn't really held much water when I put it to life's test. And I would be surprised if any of you found that a contentious point. We've got enough life experience to see that it's not about an individual being wholly good or wholly bad. And I feel that element of what goes on in your inner person, what drives you, what your kind of motives are, is where that kind of comes together. And so there's a kind of a responsibility on the inside. And a great quote, who I will definitely get the name of the person wrong, but it's Solzhenitsyn. Am I right, David? Solzhenitsyn. Well, that fella. He said... Oh, cool. Solzhenitsyn said, this is probably a paraphrase, but he said that the line between good and evil is not a line between races of people, or creeds or cultures, or borders of countries. It's a line. The line between good and evil goes right down the heart of every human, right down the middle of every human heart. And a kind of my phrase for the day is that the heart of the human problem is the problem of the human heart. So he's impressed, I can tell. Look. I may not have pronounced him right. I'm sorry. Copyright. Little c, mine. Yes. So that kind of problem of the human heart, that tension that exists within each of us, where we're pulled in both directions. Another Disney cartoon, another Tom and Jerry cartoon. When the little devil is up here and the little angel is up there, and that's there. And I think, I think you can rally against it, and you can try to believe that by your own strength alone you can pursue the good voice. But I think, well, my experience in life is that was an entirely exhausting experience. But I recognise, I think there is evidence there that there's a damage, or there's a need inside us which needs to be addressed. That need desires to be restored. We do know, I feel anyhow, on the inside, your spirit knows what it wants to it's what its desires are, what direction it wants to go, but it doesn't get there on its own. And I know there's many belief systems out there, and there's many ways of approaching spiritual belief, etc. But my question, I suppose, if I was having a quick look at any of them, would be what do the other belief systems do with that critical question? How do they handle it? What is, if you like, their answer, whatever belief we're talking about, to that issue of that turmoil, or that issue within the inner self? Now, as this is such a big gig for me, I have decided I'm going to take a selfie, copying in the lines of my good friend Barack. So, if you'll excuse me, and I also felt this tripod very handily illustrated. Might turn on, that might be good. Very handily illustrated the 3 dimensions of life. This is my body extension. Hang on, this might not work. And this is my mind extension. Oh, yeah, no, that'll do. Now, because I have to say my spirit is only flying at half mast at the moment, I am deliberately only extending the spirit in one direction. And then my intention is to press the button, and guess what? Just like in life, I hope you're all impressed with this. When you do not fully extend one arm of your 3-dimensional life, I'm being careful with this because I had to use a real camera rather than the fake one I was planning to bring. There is a lack of balance and symmetry. I'll just take the selfie without me in it. I don't know if that will fully work, but... Okay, that should be enough. That won't be on Facebook, by the way, ever. So there we go. So my take-home point is, are there 3 dimensions in your life? If so, are they equally nurtured? Are you thinking about them, working on them? My spiritual resolution, my recommendation would be that you don't neglect the spiritual dimension of your life, and that you have a think about it. If it's not currently extended to half-mast or beyond, that you'd have a think about that. Because it is kind of at least a possibility that the spiritual element of one's life does manage to get past that 1-in-1 statistic. There's no proof that anyone brings their body any further than the grave, and there's no proof they brings their mind further than the grave. But there are many belief systems who feel that your spirit lives on. They believe all kinds of different things about how that happens. But of all of the 3 dimensions, that might be one to hedge your bets on. And my spiritual resolution will come to pass should we run an Alpha course, because my resolution is just to invest some time, set aside time, Thursday evenings, in kind of nurturing my own story and kind of broadening my horizons, I suppose, by hearing other people's stories, and just having an interaction and an influence with people who are able to question the faith that I profess, and just kind of, I know, hopefully that would be a good thing for the person who is a new inquirer, or, has their own faith belief that's new to me, or haven't explored much. And I know it would be a good thing for me to just have that dialogue. So should the Alpha course go ahead, then there's a good chance, probably a better chance, that I resolve to do that than there is either of the other 2. But, I'll come back to you and let you know. So, So as an open invite, the last thing I will say about Alpha is that it is in fact a holistic course, because it would seek to give you fodder for your your body, definitely good home-cooked food. It will certainly stimulate your mind and your intellect, because there's always discussion and debate, and it will provide space for the kind of exploration of that third spiritual dimension. So I recommend it to you. And even if you think, oh, do you know what, I think I'm settled on these things, I would say it is better there's no guarantee that anyone who rocks up for an alpha discussion will all go away with a uniform. It's not a kind of a brainwashing scenario where you say, right, after this is what we say. Justin, have you got it? Da, 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 da. But it's better to debate things without settling them than to settle them in your own head without debating them. So I commend it to you, and my learned friend Justin will now tell you a little bit of the detail about that. Okay, thank you very much.